Welcome back to Aware and Awake. This is episode 3 of the Spirituality 101 series, and we're going to be talking about souls today. I'm Steve Lynan.
I'm Morgan Harum. Thanks so much for joining us. We're glad to be back with you. So, who are you? Who are you without your name, your profession, your relationships, beliefs, or even your thoughts? Most of us have thought a little bit about this question. Today, we're going to be talking about that and, what spiritual traditions call the soul.
Good. So what is the soul? We feel like a soul is the infinite spark of intelligence and energy that let's call it source. Just so when we refer to source, we're referring to that greater power, the higher power. Some people might call it God, some people might call it nature or all that is or the universe. Source. We're going to call it source for now. What is that?
It's almost like this expanding source is this expanding energy, right? And it expands through creation, through experience, and evolution.
And so we're sort of like facets of that. We're like aspects of source where we're here like experiencing the illusion of separation, right? So it's like we feel like we're separate. We all have 8 billion people in this world, right? And we feel like we're different. We're all different people. But what if we are all just the same, from the same source, but we're different expressions of that source, different fingerprints, if you will. All 8 billion of us here in a slightly different way, but all connected deeply within.
Almost as if each one of us were like a cell in a body. Like we're all part of the same body and we all have the same DNA, but we're all different cells, right?
Right.
So then the soul, really, when you go through all these spiritual traditions, the soul is the deepest essence of who we are. It's really the part of us that's unchanging, and it's what we identified before we put on all these egoic labels and identities.
So ego comes from like mind and body, but the soul is not the ego. The soul is that layer underneath of the true. Is that the true aspect of us then? Underneath the mind and body. Okay, good. And but part of us, I think part of that ego though, does get carried forth through transitions between life and death. What we found is that some of these hypnotherapists who found people that went back to what we call interlife have experienced entities there that actually have some personalities, some egocentric qualities, but they are very much in unity with one another on that side, in that dimension, in that aspect of themselves. And so there is a sense that it carries through some of that personality, some of that what we might call us from life to life. But what we experience as us, as we are in these bodies and minds, right, is like filtered by our minds and bodies, right? Filtered by our choices and our decisions and our beliefs about ourselves within this life, our experience. Is that right?
Yeah,
Okay.
and that kind of makes sense that we would carry some of that personality through beyond this body that each one of us is currently inhabiting, because how else would we learn and grow as an individual soul without kind of carrying forward some of that personality, right? Like
Right.
if we just merged back into oneness, we would totally forget who we are, or what lessons we were trying to learn last lifetime that we didn't quite get it, right?
Right.
We didn't graduate that grade, and now how do we return into another body and learn that fully if we don't have that sort of personality going forwards?
Right. So we carry part of our personality. We carry part of ourselves, part of what makes us us. We carry that forth, and we drop the mind and body. And that's then the purest essence of who we are as that separate aspect of source, right? And that's what we experience on what you might call the other side. When after we die, we transition in interlife. Like whenever we're not incarnated, that's what we experience because we don't have a filter on us, right? So that's our truest essence of us, and that's when we're with our soul family and all that stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So here we are with a good explanation of where souls are and what they're doing and how they are part of us, but really don't identify with who we actually are in these bodies fully, right? They're like greater than that, right?
Right. Yeah. So how do we start to distinguish like what's our actual soul? And it's like the soul, a lot of the yogic philosophies where I developed this idea, and have learned it from the teachers and the sages, right? That soul's observing the thoughts and the emotions. It's untouched by that stuff in a way. The mind is what's feeling the emotions, having the thoughts, and the soul can just be like this witness.
Okay, so it's like a witness to our experiences, right? Yeah, good.
Yeah.
Our soul is our witness to our experience. It sees what we are, but it doesn't necessarily identify with what we're doing, right?
Right.
It just observes it without any kind of judgment. Yeah. And so the purpose of a soul, what's the purpose of a soul? The purpose of a soul is to come here to love, to create things, to serve one another. We're actually all part of one thing underneath, and so we want to serve one another, to experience, to heal. To heal. My understanding is some traumas and things can be carried life to life, and so we want to heal those things because that might actually keep us from keep us from evolving or keep us from experiencing a greater aspect of ourselves. So healing's a big one.
And to heal each other, right? Because there's this idea that if we are one, right, one with all, then we need to uplift everyone to uplift ourselves.
Yeah.
You think about, it's almost like you could look at the mundane example of that. Like each one of us can be trying our best with taking care of the earth and the environment, but it's almost like we have to uplift everybody to that idea for it to really work,
Right.
know?
So it's like taking care of yourself to a point where you can uplift others, but it's almost like you have to do both. And in our awareness, it's like, yes, make sure you're ready with capacity to help others, and when you have capacity, go do it, go help others.
Yeah.
Right, and uplift and help with that healing of the whole unity consciousness in a way, right? Because we're all contributing. So all these souls that we're all part of one. We're all contributing to how humanity is experiencing Earth, right? So all the stuff that's happening in today's world is kind of an amalgam of everything we're thinking and experiencing and doing in our lives, taking all that together and putting it like in one giant, box and saying, what does this look like? Humanity in general, what does this look like? Where are we? What are the slight shifts or movements? Are we moving into positivity or are we moving somewhere else? And to me, I feel like, we are moving into positivity. More and more people are coming into this idea that we are all one, that we all need to be here to work together, and like we're here to help one another. And by doing that, we help ourselves first to get ourselves healthy, release those traumas, and then we reach out and help others. We reach our hands out and help the next person up when they need to help release traumas and so forth. Really good. And we're here to teach too. We're here to teach and to learn, right?
Teach and learn, yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. And through that, like everything is evolving. And so I love that because we're all here to evolve ourselves, but then by each one of us evolving ourselves, it like ripples out and the whole thing evolves, the whole species, the whole consciousness.
Right. So by evolving ourselves, we are helping to uplift. Just by working on ourselves, we are uplifting because we're raising our own consciousness and our own awareness and our own vibration. Right? So we can literally just be role models in an energetic sense of raising our vibration to help those around us. Mm-hmm. You ever been around somebody who just like feels really good to be around, and they're very calm and compassionate and loving? And you. Besides the two of us, we are not enlightened. We are on our journey, just like everyone, right? But we do feel like we have a lot of love to give to the world. But if you're around that kind of person, then you can feel that love. You can feel that just sense of calm and peace, and maybe even like a little bit of optimism or uplifting or just extra love. I think we've all experienced that in our lives at least a few times, and sometimes more than a few times. And so that can be somebody in your life who could help you, if you could be around that person more, that could help raise your vibration. They could help raise your awareness.
I feel like a lot of our pets do that too.
Yeah. So whenever I'm doing energy work with Morgan, the cat always comes over and he like lays on me or near Morgan. Like and he doesn't do that all the time, right? But when the energy work's going, he's like, I'm going to be part of this. So he wants to get a little bit of that energy to help, get some vibration raising, I guess, within himself, because animals are very aware of this stuff, it feels like. Yeah. So good. So we're also here to teach and learn. We're here to learn from people that can teach us things, and we're here to teach people that are ready to learn, that are open to learn, which is what we're doing here. We're helping to teach people that are ready to open to this. This is us trying to get the information out that we've read out of books and all sorts of different resources to get this out in the world and to say, hey, this is an easy thing to step into. Just follow this series, right? And so what is this all for, though? It all comes down to, like, what are we trying to do with our souls? We're trying to evolve them. And so it's kind of like, as you learn lessons, as you release traumas, as you step further into love, as you find that part of yourself, you are evolving as a soul. And so between many, many different incarnations, many, many different lifetimes, we are evolving our soul, and we're getting to a higher level. And my understanding is, and I think our understanding is, if it's fair to say, that on the other, we've read a lot of similar books.
That's true.
That on the other side being that dimension of where we are in interlife, we do experience that. We do experience that evolution shift. And so as we evolve, there's different, it's weird, but there's some hierarchy there, and it's all in love. And it doesn't matter if you learn lessons over the course of one life or 10 lives. There's no judgment. It's all in love, and it's all for you, and it's all your path, and it's okay. There are hierarchies, though, and there are more evolved souls that help. Like, when you go across, you have a guide. Your guide is probably going to be a higher evolved soul. Because why would they put a lower evolved soul as your guide? That doesn't really make any sense, right? So you may become a guide yourself, and you may be guiding people that are still working on their evolution to help them choose life experiences and places on Earth and other places maybe that, like, they can actually achieve that evolution that they want to achieve in their next iteration. And so we're here to evolve. We really are. And as we evolve, as you were saying, we evolve everyone. Like, we evolve everyone, but not just everyone on Earth. We're evolving Source, and Source wants to evolve. So to bring it all back around, we're all souls, part of Source. We all want to evolve ourselves, our individual aspects of that illusion of separation. But the reality is we're all part of this bigger thing, and it wants us to evolve as well. It wants us to create, to experience, to evolve, and to bring these experiences back to Source, because we're all part of Source. I said a lot of words. Do you have anything to add to that?
One piece that I feel like that we haven't mentioned is that as these, like, sparks of Source energy, like sparks of light, like, we are not the center, right? And part of our learning is to realize, like, that we're part of this all encompassing one, right? And so we're not, like, the center of the universe. So we're like there serving. We're there to put the one and the infinite, like, at the center.
I never really thought about that. So say more about that. Like, so we're not at the center. Where are we?
I don't know. We're just like a cell in a body, right? Like, the cell isn't living life for itself. It's like living for the whole.
Okay, so this is like an analogy of the center, because I have cells that are, like, right here that are in my center of my body, right?
Right.
So you're talking about just, like, we are working towards that, the center being enlightenment, or
the center is Source, right? So it's like recognizing that
but we're all Source.
We are all Source. But but the trick is the ego, like, when we start to think of ourselves as separate, we put ourselves first, right?
Okay.
And so forgetting that we aren't first. Forgetting that we aren't first is where we start getting in trouble. We start to feel like, oh, it's just about me and what I can get. And so as we can evolve and serve and love, like, it becomes, we're not the center of the universe anymore. It starts to be like everything is as valuable as I am.
Okay. So is it fair to say that as we move towards selflessness, we're moving towards that center of, like, just being one with Source again?
Yeah.
And so,
yeah.
But the aspects of us that are not in alignment with that, are they still part of Source?
The aspects that are not in alignment with that.
Yeah, the aspects that are still self-serving, people that are,
Yeah. yeah, obviously, like everything is spirit, right? Everything is source.
Right.
And so, but it's like the part of the illusion is that's how we forgot. That's how we forgot that, like, oh, like when we're little kids, we're just like it's all about me, and like,
Right.
oh,
Right.
I'm hungry,
Survival.
and
Yeah.
right. So it's like, oh, if we're not this body, and we're not this individual with like certain labels and identities,
Right.
now we can open up to who we are.
Okay. And so as we shift away from ego and selfishness, and then we move towards selflessness, we're moving towards that centerpiece that you're talking about of source, where it's more pure. Purity being completely letting down any separation, letting down even personality, and just being like, I'm just part of this big thing, and that's okay, and that's enough, right?
Right, like
Okay.
a tree in the forest.
Like a tree in the forest. Okay,
Yeah.
cool. We
Yeah.
got there. So good. So we talked about what we're here to do. Let's talk about soul versus mind for a minute. What do you think about that?
I think that's important to delineate, because I think what I was getting at is a lot of us identify with the mind and that separateness, right?
Right.
And so, what is our mind doing? It's like thinking, it's forming likes and dislikes,
Right.
it's forming desires, or making fears, like it's living in certain fears, and it tells stories, right? Like we've all been accumulating memories, and oh, I lived as this person, and I experienced this, and that's why I am the way I am, right?
Right. And so the soul is witnessing these things, right? It's witnessing all these things that are going on through the mind. The thoughts, the fears, especially, in this day and age, the desires, the stories. And so what does the soul do with that? What's it doing with those things?
Well, I think as the soul's witnessing that, and it's aware of all these experiences, the feelings, the desires, the way we can start to find our soul is to say, well, what's been unchanging?
Oh,
What's
yeah.
been unchanging underneath all of the jobs I've had, or relationships I've been in, or feelings I've experienced?
Right. So when you tap into like a deeper mindset, you're tapping into more of that soul aspect. Is that right? Because you're bypassing the mind. You're getting into that deeper level of unity and of who you actually are underneath that aspect of source that's underlying your mind, right? Mm-hmm. Really cool. So the soul is aware of thoughts, but is not the thoughts themselves.
Right. So for those of you who have a meditation practice, and you're maybe you're focused on breath, or you're focused on a sensation in the body, you're watching thoughts come and go, right? And it's like one after the other, and you've described it beautifully, like clouds in the sky.
Clouds in the sky.
Yeah, I've talked about like traffic on the street, where you see cars driving. We don't identify with those thoughts. Then we're just the person watching that, right?
Right.
So as we watch the thoughts, or we watch the emotions, now we know, well, we're the witness, we're the observer, because the thoughts keep changing, and I don't keep changing. I'm not fluctuating with all that.
That's just what's coming in through the mind, right? And so as we get to that deeper state, and we can bypass those thoughts and emotions, we can kind of get down to that base state where we feel that peace, that oneness. A lot of people feel bliss. They might even feel a deep sense of gratitude for having this experience here through these minds and bodies, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Good. So I guess most people out there, they experience life through the filter of the mind. So they're not even thinking about the soul. They're just like, again, kind of like, give me this, give me that. How can I serve myself? And then maybe sometimes helping other people when they, but mostly it feels like that seems to be the nature of survival, right?
Survival, and it's like what we're taught to learn about ourselves, right? Like as we grow up, it's like, what do you want to be?
Right.
Well, I already am what I am. I don't have to be anything. I already am a soul. And then I put on this role of like a job and a relationship and a hobby and a like or a dislike, right? So
Right. So then we start attaching labels, right? When we grow up and we realize, oh, okay, I'm a plumber, or I'm a man, or I'm a parent, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
I'm single, married. I like horses, or
Right.
this person I like dogs, or
And interestingly, all those labels actually create a little bit of separation, right? Because like I am this means you are not that, right?
if
Okay.
you're a dog person and I'm a cat person. Whew.
Right. It creates separation where we really don't have to like I can like dogs more and you can like cats more, but we don't have to identify with being a dog person and a cat person, right? Because like that might create a little bit of separation. It's an issue that's debatable, I guess, but it's really like as we shift towards unity, it feels like we shift towards that more positivity and like belonging. I mean, look at the divisiveness of the world in a way. Like people are like, I am this and you are that. So since I am this and you are that, we can't get along. We
Right.
won't even try, and let's just have a war and kill each other, right? And so that gets us into trouble when we step into that separatism. So labels seems like they can really get us into trouble, even though we want to belong to things. Like we have this innate desire to belong to groups of things. It's like I want to be in that group. I want to be a member, but we already are all members of this
Right.
amazing group called Source, right? And so like we don't really. I think we have a desire for membership because we're not tapping into our soul, and that desire for membership, that since we're not tapping into our soul, maybe not going in deep mind, we're finding that through our mind, which is telling us go join this club of gamers, or go join this club of whatever it is, and be that, and that's what you are, right?
Yeah.
So interesting. It just came to me because I hadn't
That's
thought
so
about that
good.
before. It's like we are members, but we
Yeah.
might not feel it because we're not tapping in. So yeah, do a little mindfulness, do a little meditation, and you'll feel that membership. So you don't feel like you'll need those labels otherwise.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so good because when we identify with the labels, what gets challenging is when you lose that job you identified with, you lose that relationship that best friend you've been
Yeah.
friends with for so long, and then
Yeah.
it hurts so much to have this loss because you're like, who am I now,
Right.
right?
I lost a piece of my identity because I was together with that person. Now I'm single and it's totally different.
Yeah.
And yeah. And now they're living another life and I'm not with them anymore or whatever. And it's like that's so interesting because people do that all the time. They get together, they break up, and then they feel really lost for a little bit sometimes. Some more than others. And it's because they put so much stock in like this is my identity. I'm a couple with this person, or we're gonna live our life together. Whatever it is. Yeah.
I felt like that a little bit quitting trimming because I trimmed horses as like a barefoot farrier, right? And I loved what I did, and I loved horses, and I liked the work, and I felt like this is a good expression of me, right?
Right.
And to let go of that was hard for a while, and I had to like refine a way of expressing and serving because I had identified with that way of service, and that's who I am. And
Right.
it was a little bit of like a death to part of the ego.
Right, right.
Yeah.
Because you have to be adaptable to be like, I'm still alive, but I'm not part of this thing anymore that I thought was part of me, and now I
Yeah.
have to figure out what does that mean for me, right?
Yeah.
And so again, we want to tap back into that overall membership of Source. We're all members. We all have a carrying card. We're all members. So like, what's interesting, and this is probably going to be another episode, but I do want to bring up something. It's like people that are in those all-encompassing, like Scientology, like almost like deep religions, which is not just religion, but it's also part of your everyday life. It's part of your whole entire experience. That can be really challenging for them to come out of that because, their whole experience is within that realm of like, this is what you are, this is who you are, these are all your friends. And when you lose all that, you've like lost your entire community, not just it's like you've lost what your spirituality was connected to, you've lost what your community was connected to. And sometimes you lose your family. And then you have to find what am I or who am I? And people have gone through that, and it's been very challenging, I think. And we'll talk more about that in a future episode because I think that's important to tap into. We're always trying to find ourselves, but sometimes these things happen for us. If we're leaving something like that, there's probably a reason why we're doing that. We don't feel called to be there, or something's happened to help push us out, and we're like, maybe we weren't supposed to be there in the first place, or maybe that was just part of our karma. Anyway, really good stuff.
Yeah. So just something to ponder for yourself is, how do you label or define yourself? What are those I am statements that you are when you introduce yourself and you say I am blah 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 blah, and so how are you going around and what stories are you telling?
Right. It's interesting because when I was at a retreat with Matthias de Stefano, and his mantra is Yo soy, which that's Spanish for I am. Nothing after it, just I am. The
like
end,
it.
right? Because that is the membership of all of this stuff of Source. And so tapping into that is like if you just say I am without anything after it, that's it. That's all you got to do. And then you don't limit it, because if you put anything after that, you are limiting it and causing separation in your own life and your own identity.
Yeah,
Right?
there's that yogic mantra, so hum, I am that. And then as you repeat it, I am that I am that I am, I am that I am. Yeah.
Am I doing it right?
So hum.
So hum. Yes, so hum.
Yeah.
I actually use that as a mantra sometimes to go into meditation. Just with breath, like so on the inhale and hum on the exhale. Just it helps you focus. Yeah. Really good. So, what label's been true for your whole life? Think about it. Yeah, what labels do you think you could set down, and what labels do you feel really attached to? And maybe you can kind of feel into that and look into that and realize that maybe your identity doesn't have to be attached to all those labels, and maybe that would be helpful for you to let some of those go. Still having interest in those things. We still have interest in things. You like horses.
I've liked horses my whole life, but
Yeah.
it's like, is that going to be absolutely true
Right.
throughout all my lifetimes?
Right. You don't have to be a horse person, right? You don't label the horse person, right? You just like horses.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the other thing that I consider too, it's like, even if we identify as this body's had so many iterations, right? Like
Right.
we started off like 8 pounds, right? And then we grew and into like a kid that was 40, 50 pounds, right? And then we were
Whatever
a
the weight is,
teenager.
yes.
Yeah, teenager. And then, now we're these adults. And even as the decades go on, these bodies keep changing. And am I the same body? No. All my cells have recycled and replaced themselves, right? Every 7 years that
Right.
happens. But there's something underneath that's been unchanged.
Right.
How do we find that?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good reminder that we are just wearing these bodies temporarily. These are our vehicles for this iteration of our experience in virtual reality this time around, right? And so the less we identify with our bodies, the more we can identify with our soul, right? And with all that is, with a source,
Right.
bringing it all back around. Yeah.
Right, because eventually these like very able bodies are going to like lose that, right? We're going to get older, and it's like that suffering from like, oh, now I can't drive, or now I used to be able to do this, and now I can't do that anymore because I'm not strong enough. That the sooner we can let go of that identity with that old body, the less we're going to suffer when we get to that point.
Right,
Yeah.
because it creates suffering. The more we hang on to stuff that we've lost, and the less adaptable we are, the more we suffer, right? The more we can adapt into change and shift, and less attachment to things, and including these bodies, right, in this world, the more fulfilled and happier we're going to be. The more we're going to be tapped into that universal consciousness. Yeah, so good. So, when do we suffer? Like, what causes the suffering, do you think, like, overall?
The suffering is like, it's like that like the more we're identified with the body or these temporary labels. So like if I had a certain income level, or I had a certain job I was proud of, or a certain hobby, and then the more I hung on to that as that's me,
Right.
that's when we start to slip into suffering, because it's like I feel like the benevolent universe that's trying to teach us, or source that's trying to teach us, is like, hey, like you aren't that, so I'm gonna take stuff away to help you learn that, right? Like it's inevitable. Change is inevitable. So we're suffering when we identify with those things. So what are other ways we identify?
So, it sounds like we're not just it's not just attachment to negative things, it's also attachment to positive things. So even
Yeah.
when we have successes and we attach ourselves to those, well, everything changes eventually. And so if we don't, let's say we have one success and then we don't have the next success, even though we did the same thing, we might say, oh, I'm a failure, right? Because it didn't work out this time. Meanwhile, it's like we've attached ourselves to the success, being like, my identity is that. And if that doesn't happen, my identity suffers, right? So it sounds like suffering is like it can be positive or negative events. We just
Right.
it's how much we attach ourselves to those things that happen in our life.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and as both of us as hypnotherapists, we see a lot of the suffering in our clients and ourselves because we've both been hypnotherapy clients, right? It's like
Yes.
suffering happens from attaching to beliefs and thought patterns, right? And so we get stuck in it, and then it's like we need to be able to let go to be free to then have more joy and trueness,
Right.
authenticity.
Right.
Yeah.
Letting go of those things. Yeah. And it's so interesting. You're right. It happens through the clients, and then it's all there's also reflections upon ourselves from our clients that help us realize, oh, I'm actually challenged with that too in some ways, or I've seen
Hmm.
that in my life, or I had to overcome that. It's so interesting to work with people because we're all kind of suffering from the same things in a way, just
Yeah.
different. We have just different experiences of those things. There's a lot of like, as souls, I feel like we all want to feel that love, that oneness, and when we aren't tapped in to the membership club, we aren't feeling that. And so a lot of times when we're not feeling that, we tell ourselves stories about like, oh, maybe I'm not good enough for that. Maybe I'm not worthy of feeling that way.
Hmm.
I'm not for something makes me special where I'm not good enough to be here. And then we feel that lack of love and we feel that separation. That's all separation, right?
Yeah.
Like, oh, everybody else is worthy and I'm not. Well, that's separation. You put yourself in a different club. We're all worthy just by being here, by choosing to come here. We are all worthy of being here. And so that's it's interesting to keep those things in perspective because even though we're telling you these things, we're not perfect at these things. We're still working on our own lives. So it's like
Yeah.
there's a lot here that's really helpful for us to talk about, and also just kind of unfolds in front of us as we go through our lives. So it's a journey, and we love that you're taking this journey with us. So thanks for tuning in, and let's keep it going. What do we have next? Let's talk about freedom of witness.
Yeah. The changes that happen when we start to more and more identify as the observer or the witness, that's really what we're talking about, that freedom. So we create a little bit of space. If I'm going through an emotional experience, or big change in my life, the more I can step back and say, oh, I'm watching myself feel sad, right? Like, and I'm not. There's a language thing there too, because we can say I am sad,
Right, right.
or we can
I am.
say like, I'm experiencing sadness,
Ah, yeah.
or we can say like I feel sad, or we could even like sound a little weird and be like my mind's experiencing sadness, right?
Think about how people would respond to that, right? My mind's experiencing sadness. They'd be like,
I know it sounds a little strange, but it's like creating a little bit of a separation, and that separation allows us to look at it like it's like a movie of someone else, even though it's like that experience that we're going through.
right,
It's not really like the deepest part of ourselves.
right,
It's unchanging.
right. And this is the good separation. This is separation from your feelings and body and the experiences from your soul,
And yeah, and
right?
thoughts, yeah.
In observer mode rather than that is me mode, right?
Right, because how many times have we had negative thoughts about ourselves? That inner critic starts to come out.
Oh, the inner critic.
Oh, I'm not worthy, or I'm not good enough, or oh, I'm so bad at this, right? And it's like when we can say, "Mm, I don't have to believe all my thoughts, right? Like my not all my thoughts are real or true. So now I have freedom of choice. I don't have to believe that. Then I
Right,
don't have to suffer from it.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And when you don't suffer from it, you're just going to feel more connected to all the people around you and all the things around you. Back
Mhm.
into that again, back into that membership club. It's full circle all the way back. So how do we tell people to get that? Well, you want greater peace in your life. You want greater stability. You want less reactivity, and a sense of really like inner freedom, right? And freedom is kind of like freedom to express ourselves and be who we came here to be, right? And the true expression of ourselves is under those layers of the mind and emotions, right? Our
Mm-hmm.
true expression, is interesting because it's like when we truly express ourselves, I feel like in my life, when I've truly expressed myself, I get rewarded by source. I get rewarded by what I like to call the universe sometimes. So I'm going to interchange those sometimes, but like I feel like good things happen when I express myself at that deep level, without filtering it through the negativity potentially within the mind or other things in the mind that are kind of get in the way of and limit your experience, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So
So how do we start to know the soul, right? We've been talking a lot about like separating, right? A little bit away from thoughts or beliefs or certain temporary identities, right? So
right,
um
stilling and quieting the mind,
yeah,
a little bit of
meditation.
mindfulness. You can start with mindfulness and meditation.
Mm-hmm.
Similar in a way, in my awareness, mindfulness is like almost like a short meditation, but you're kind of just like clearing your thoughts and just taking a moment for you, maybe feeling good about the present, feeling a
It's
little gratitude. And meditation is more like clearing all the thoughts and really like becoming still.
yeah, mindfulness feels more like I'm watching the thoughts. I'm aware I'm having thoughts,
Yeah,
or
yeah. It's
I'm
like the gateway to
watching.
meditation, right?
Yeah, it's like I'm watching the emotions. I'm watching these sensations. I'm feeling them. And then like as you're mindful and then those start to fade away and
Right,
dissolve, right? Because eventually no more thoughts will be thought, right? Like you've thought them all.
right,
Then there's that stillness of meditation, that one point of focus.
right. That's when you clear the skies of the clouds being those thoughts. You really can kind of like, with your own ability and intention, clear those clouds out of the sky and clear your thoughts out of your mind. It just becomes still. And it'll be fun because like I remember the first time I was able to like go 10 seconds without thinking a single thought, and it was pretty cool because it was like, wow, I've never really had this kind of stillness before.
Mm.
And everybody has that ability. Everybody has the ability to tap in. It's just a matter of sitting down and doing it. And it takes practice, right? It's like a muscle. So like start with mindfulness. With being aware of your thoughts. Uh, sit still for just promise 5 minutes. Sit still without interruption in a quiet place for 5 minutes. Just be aware of your thoughts. They might be churning or ruminating or like going over whatever. Just be aware of them without any judgment and without really digging into like what should I do about that? Just be like
Mm-hmm.
observing them go through. And like Morgan said, it's like clouds passing by. They can just let them keep on going by. Clouds don't stay still. So yeah. What else can we do, Morgan?
Well, I feel like part of how I got here is self study. I love reading, and so we can look to the books that these like great teachers have written, or like spiritual lectures, right? Like,
Right.
and finding the truths that speak to you, and teachers that speak to you that you resonate with, that can help you kind of step back, or I like to call it like zooming out, where you start to like look at things from like higher mind rather than that like very subjective thought, belief, feeling,
Right.
like subconscious
So
experience.
one way to do that. Sorry for cutting you off.
Go
Were you
ahead.
finished?
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay. One way to do that is literally to like watch podcasts like this or listen to podcasts like this because we're just reiterating what we've already read out of these books, so we can help pass that guidance along to you in an easy to digest manner. Again, collecting all these things from different
Mm-hmm.
resources to give it to you in an easily digestible way, so you can learn a few things and what resonates with you. Like Morgan said, take that with you. If it doesn't resonate, leave it behind, and that way you can kind of gain that awareness of this world and how and your place in it and how you feel about that. Yeah, so good. So let's talk about how these this creativity, this expression that we've talked about, expression, genuine expression. And when we talk about genuine expression, it's like people have things that come in like weird stuff, right? People have made inventions like Nikola Tesla, for instance. This is an interesting guy. Like he said he would just take, I think, like little naps or something like that, and he would wake
Mm-hmm.
up and have ideas. He would have ideas in his dreams, and he would even build these things in meditation and test them, these machines. And then he would test it in his dreams and in his mind before building it. That's amazing, right? But like there's a lot of people that have felt like they're not really creating this stuff. They're just bringing it into the world.
So many artists have talked about that, right? Where
Yeah.
it's like they were in a meditative state or a relaxed state, or they were napping, or and like all of a sudden something came in
Right.
and they had a light bulb moment, I like to call
Right.
it, like a inspiration. Or and so there's this idea of muses, right? Like,
Right.
oh, the muse came to visit and had to be like ready for her visit.
Oh, like Bob Dylan.
Yeah,
That was okay.
he described it being like in a trance like state,
Right.
right? And then he said, oh, it's like the lyrics write themselves.
Right. And Paul Simon said he was an instrument, literally just relaying the music. He wasn't actually creating. He was just relaying the music from some other source, and that's how he gets his music. And it's almost like source as our kind of like oversoul in a way, like the overarching soul of source of all the souls combined and everything else. It's like that wants things to come into the world.
Mm-hmm.
And so it looks for conduits, looks for willing conduits that also have the ability to bring it in, right? So it's almost like a seed looking for the right place in earth to plant itself to like grow a tree, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so it's looking for fertile ground. And so when these seeds find this fertile ground, you get your Paul Simons and your Bob Dylans creating some amazing pieces of music, as well as artists and inventors and other people that are creating things. It's really going into that quiet mind and being that conduit for that creativity that wants to come through.
Mm-hmm.
So that kind of brings us to unity consciousness in a way, right? Because it's like if we're all tapping into this source of goodies, like fun stuff, creative stuff, and each of us might have a different tap because we all have different abilities and awareness, right? And so if I'm more technological, I might tap into a new like way to program something. But if I'm an
Mm-hmm.
artist, I'm going to tap into maybe like a painting I want to paint or something like that, or a sculpture. But this unity consciousness is the sense that as all the identification falls away, a deeper reality is revealed. And so then we begin to experience like that unifying energy connecting all life.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll call this unity consciousness, and we appear separate, right? But we
Right.
really aren't. We're all together in this. We all have the membership card, right? So we're all souls, part of this membership, and so at a deeper level, we're really all interconnected. And then there's this thing called. You want to talk about the Maharishi effect, and we'll go back and forth a little bit. This is a really cool thing that was done years ago, but Maharishi effect. You can talk about the effect itself, maybe, and then I'll jump in.
So it was basically like getting enough people meditating on peace, right?
Yeah,
At the same time.
yeah.
And so in that, then the crime rates went down, right?
Yeah, this was done in DC in '93, and so it was just a test, right? They were like, let's see if this works. And so the Maharishi effect it comes from Maharishi Mahesh Yogi, who's this guy. He's the inventor or founder of transcendental meditation. Okay, and his idea was if we get 1% of people to pray for or like meditate for peace, and meditate for a higher awareness, for basically meditating for fulfillment, joy, for making better choices, let's say. If you can get 1% of a population to do that, you'll actually have a statistical result of less crime, more fulfillment, just overall better experiences. And they did this in '93, and the crime rate went down significantly. And I remember reading about it, and the police chief could not point a finger to anything else that changed. There was no massive policy change or like, oh, we hired 100 new police officers. No, it was nothing like that. They were just like the crime rate went drastically down. And then when they finished and they stopped doing it, so these people were meditating, I think, once a week. And they were like, you can meditate anytime you want, but once a week. And they got 1% of DC. It was like 10,000 people at the time, I think.
Okay.
I don't remember exactly. It might have been, gosh, 1% was, yeah, I think it was around 10,000 at the time. And so they got them all to meditate for a better, outcome, for a better outlook. And then when they finished and they wrapped it up and they all stopped, then the crime rate slowly climbed back up. And so it kind of shows us that like, wow, we really are connected. This is unity consciousness, and we can have an effect. Like, imagine being part of the 99%, right? You're walking around and you're like, I like to commit some crimes, now and again. And then for a few months, you're like, I don't really want to commit any crimes for whatever reason. I'm just gonna go to the park for a little while. You're making better decisions, but you don't even know why, right? because the consciousness has been raised in that area to help you shift to better decisions. And so the crime rate literally went down. Less people got killed, less people got hurt, less people just felt like doing crimes in general. It's fascinating. Uh, oh,
Oh, it's interesting because
yeah.
it's like um, sometimes I say this thing like you are who you hang out with, and you're not even really trying to mirror the people that you hang out with. But our friend came to visit, and all of a sudden she started talking a little bit more like us, like after a week,
Oh,
right?
that's right.
And so, and it's like it's not even conscious or like intentional, but it's like if 1% changes and evolves or is acting more harmoniously, then it ripples out.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. When I went to New Zealand, I was starting to talk in the New Zealander accent
Oh
after
my
like 3
gosh.
weeks. And I
Uh-huh.
got pretty good at it. And then, of course, it dropped away when I came back home. But I was having fun with it at the time. It's a fun accent. So, you know, the Monroe Institute, a place that's near and dear to my heart. I've been there a bunch of times, and I have a bunch of friends that are connected with the institute and go there. It's a wonderful place. It's like Hogwarts for consciousness. Okay, so the Monroe Institute, one of their mission statement is really to reach 1% of the world to shift consciousness. Uh, have a realistic shift, or I'm sorry, not a realistic, a statistically significant shift in consciousness if they can reach 1% of the world. And so their objective is to reach out through their app, which has binaural beats, through their programs, through all their different things. They have residential programs and remote programs and all sorts of good stuff. And so it's funny that they're actually using the same thing as Maharishi Mahesh did. They're just taking it to a different level of like, let's do the whole world and let's also make it permanent instead of
Mm-hmm.
just making it like a 6 month study, because then we're going to have a permanent change.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's really good stuff. So this is all having to do with like unity consciousness. This is basically like showing that we are all one. We're all part of one big soul. I don't know what you call it. Maybe we just call it source, but
Yeah,
there's a whole other episode there probably within
it's
that.
like the in the yoga system, it's like we all have an individual soul, and then there's like the great soul, right? And
Right.
it's like that infinite soul is up. It's almost like layers of a seed, right? It's like the very center of the soul is like that infinite, and
Right.
then there's the individual around that, and then the bodies around that, right?
Oh, yeah.
Um,
And there's different I think there's different levels of there's oversouls. Oversouls are essentially like larger aspects of our soul that we're part of that feed up to source. And so there is some delineations between even oversouls. I've heard I think Bashar, who is channeled through Daryl Anka, he has said that there's around, oh gosh, I can't remember, 500,000 oversouls on Earth. And each oversoul is responsible for X amount of people, and that changes constantly because people are constantly coming or going from Earth, through death and birth. And so there is an aspect that part of your personality, part of who you are as a soul that comes through when you tap in, might be an aspect of the oversoul, because oversouls probably have a little bit of a like a theme almost,
hmm,
right? Because oversouls
interesting.
have their own personality in a way, so all the soul aspects of that are going to have some of that similar personality, I would imagine.
Interesting.
Yeah, I don't, we don't have a source for that exactly. I think that's more theory, but I think I could cobble together a few sources for most of that. Uh, it's an interesting thing though. So anyway, yeah, we're all part of one.
So what do you think of do you think animals have souls?
Oh, definitely. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I
What do you
agree
think
with
about
that. I
that?
agree with that. I feel like if source is infinite, right?
Right,
There wouldn't be anything source energy is not in,
right.
right?
Yeah,
So each animal is like an expression of that source energy.
right. Yeah, and so interesting. So it's like if animals have souls, then we should probably treat them similar to how we treat each other when we're feeling that bliss and that connectedness, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so they should be part of this whole thing. You know, animals are just really, that's interesting because when you go to animals, it's like, well, they're just part of this earth, along with plants and mushrooms and other things, minerals. Uh, are souls throughout all those things? I think they are.
Yeah, it's like consciousness is in all those things.
Right. It's like smaller fragments of consciousness are in all those things. So like
Right.
perhaps the soul in a mineral would be much more simple and less experienced, perhaps, than or even like just a lesser portion of a soul, like almost like a fractal of a soul, would be in a mineral versus like a plant, which is a little more complicated, versus potentially an animal, like a fish, which is a little more complicated. Then you've got an animal like a mountain lion, which is a little more complicated. And then you go to the humans. So it's like there's probably different aspects of souls that are in each one. And I think I've read about this in a couple different sources, uh,
Mm-hmm.
where there's just everything has a soul. And
Right.
so yeah, and
Like
yeah, go ahead, talk about how that's gone in history, if you
how
want.
that's gone in history. Well,
Yeah,
you know what I feel like the where did that idea that animals don't have souls come from? Because growing up, that was something taught in the religion that I grew up in,
right.
Christianity. It's like animals don't have souls. So
Yeah,
I feel like, stepping back, zooming out, I felt like the reason that idea came about is so that we can just treat them like resources. Oh, it doesn't matter how we treat the cows because they don't
right,
have a spirit. There's no karma for
right.
treating them a certain way.
So then you're not breaking any of the rules of your religion. If the religion makes it okay to do that, then you're not breaking any of the rules, and you'll still go to whatever heaven is in your religion, right?
Right?
And so I think they got that wrong. It's
It
like,
seems like
yeah,
it.
it seems like you are creating karma if you're mistreating animals, and yeah. So if animals have souls, then we should be treating them, as other beings of this earth, like just like we treat
Hmm.
anything else when we're treating them, when we're in our hearts, when we're working through our hearts.
Right.
Like even working animals, it's like people, even especially indigenous cultures, have had working animals where the animal actually feels a lot of probably purpose and has a wonderful life, even though they're working most days, because they're being treated well. They're being treated like
Hmm.
they have a soul, and so they actually have that fulfillment in life rather than just being like whipped and trying to like coerced into like overworking, or because resources tend to be overused, right, or misused. Oh, it doesn't
Right.
matter. It doesn't if it doesn't have any feelings. I can make it work for 14 hours a day instead of 8 hours a day or something like that, right?
Right.
Until it dies, and I'll just get another one because it's just a resource.
Right.
So yeah, I think we need to get away from that a little bit. And gosh, that's so prevalent too with like how we treat animals in terms of like farming and all the food we get from animals, which I understand. Let's talk about that for a second because animals have souls, right? And so my understanding is indigenous people would, when they take animals uh, in celebration of life and with understanding the circle of life, they don't overtake, and they actually have gratitude for taking the animal. That the vibration of that meat is actually pretty high, and it's actually like it's very in line with Earth, right? Because
Mm.
that's how Earth is meant to be. There's predators and there's prey, and animals understand if they're predators or they're prey. What they don't understand is like factory farming, like, oh, we're just all lined up to be slaughtered, but there's not really any circle of life there. It's like it's really unbalanced. It seems like in nature, and so we can get back to that. If we can get back to that natural balance, of course, we have so many people on the Earth. It's like 8 billion people. I think a lot of people have to become vegetarians for us to make this work. But we
Right.
can probably get back to that in some way, and somehow maybe we can shift away from eating so much meat because there really isn't enough wild game to feed us all that way with that intentionality. Even if we
Right.
wanted to do that in today's day and age, we couldn't with all the people that eat meat right now, right? There's
Right.
not enough wild animals. It wouldn't be in balance. All
Right.
right, so we're gonna have to figure out how to find that balance over the next many years to help the Earth shift back into that harmony. Yeah.
Hmm.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
So let's shift away from animals. Yes, we love it. We love animals, obviously, and they have souls, so be nice to them. So let's talk about the three levels of mind. Why don't you start us off with that? We'll go from there.
Right. So we have three levels, right? Conscious level, which is like uh, usually when you're having a conversation or maybe even listening to a podcast or something, you are a lot of times analyzing, reasoning, or with it being word focused. That's usually in our conscious mind, right? And so um,
So the
doing
language of the conscious mind is words, right? Okay, keep going. You got it. You're on a roll.
All
You're
right.
doing
So
great.
we have our willpower there too. Like we want to try to like will our way through changes. So then our subconscious is like where our memories and our beliefs and emotions and our feelings live, right? And our self thoughts.
This is a much
So
larger part of our mind too. Like this has a lot more going on than the conscious mind.
right.
You got it.
And And so that's also where our imagination is, right? How we imagine things. And then within that subconscious mind is superconscious mind. So that's the third level. It's like that's where um like higher self is, like that wise part of you, or it could also be unity consciousness, right?
So the
Like,
I am, that's where the I am is, right?
yeah,
Okay. And
the
unity
I
consciousness, yeah.
yeah, the I am without all the little labels that we've been mistakenly identifying as.
Yeah. The I am, stop there.
Right.
Yeah. So these three levels of mind, they creating, are they part of the soul, or are they just, I don't know why I'm asking you like I don't know, but this is fun. Are they're not part of the soul, they're part of your mind, right? So they're,
They're part of the mind. So
except for the
they're
superconscious could be part of the soul, right?
right.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's almost like they're like the outer layers around the soul is how I envision it.
Yeah. Because
Like
the superconscious, oh, go ahead.
if the soul was like the deepest true essence, then it's like around that is subconscious and conscious mind, like I don't know, layers.
Yeah. So it sounds like the mind is the conscious and subconscious potentially, and then the superconscious is really that tap into consciousness of that we all share, that unity consciousness. So
Mm-hmm.
like when you tap into that, are you tapping into any aspect of yourself at a deeper level? I don't think you are. Maybe you are the personality that comes through in the soul level. That could be what you're tapping into. But otherwise, it's not really part of the mind. It's really part of that consciousness cloud, if you will, right? That unity consciousness. Really
Yeah.
interesting.
Gosh, a little a little resource that I loved reading Ernest Holmes' book, Science of Mind, because he talks about the superconscious and how each one of us is like affecting superconscious and playing with it. And so if you're looking for reading, that's like that book was like life changing for me.
Yeah, it's good. Oh, that brings up a good. Actually, you made a really good point. So I've noticed in different books, depending on when they're written and who's writing them, the subconscious might be referred to as the unconscious. Like
Right.
Edgar Casey books, they refer to it as the unconscious. But the unconscious, at that time, I don't think they delineated between the subconscious and the superconscious. They were just basically saying like, there's conscious mind and there's everything else, and we're going to call that unconscious mind. And
Right.
so sometimes you'll see in resources or books, that's what it's referred to. It's kind of like a big envelope holding it all. And so we're kind of delineating, oh, there's a subconscious that's actually in us, and then there's a superconscious, which is that tap into our soul,
Right.
into all the oversouls, and then all of source. Right. Yeah. So it's good. So you'll see it in different aspects as you read different things. Uh, so let's talk about how souls are not really attached to the body. This is a fun
Yeah, this is fun. So like gosh, I feel like I haven't personally experienced this yet, but like
I haven't either,
as a teenager,
as far as I know.
I was trying to do this thing. My friend told me like about astral projection. I was like, that sounds really awesome because as a teenager you want to get out and explore, but you're kind of like confined by what your parents will allow you to do, or like
Yeah.
you can't drive out of state or whatever. And I'm like, oh, this is pure freedoms. And so I was trying to like I found this old yogic book on it, and it gave you these steps. Here's what you do,
Right.
and then eventually you can either like float out or roll out. And I was like, well, rolling out feels like I could get into that. And but yeah, astral projection, it's like your spirit consciousness is able to like go explore.
All right. Tom Campbell is really good at this, and he talks about it in a lot of his interviews and podcasts. And Bob Monroe talks about it. Journeys Out of the Body, the first book he wrote, he talks about literally going out of the body. He didn't know what it was. Nobody even had anything written at the time that he knew of. There was no internet. And so, like, yeah, people have written about this because they've gone traveling.
Right. And it was so cool in Journeys Out of the Body how he was able to like once he woke up, and it was the next day and everybody else was awake, he was able to like verify details with
Yeah,
people like, oh, I saw like you and your husband were talking about blah blah blah, and they were like, yeah. And He's like, and what color shirt were you wearing? Oh, it was like blue with white stripes. What? Yeah, that's
Yeah.
what I was wearing.
So good. So yeah, astral projection, like you do it consciously, and so we'll have a whole nother episode on things like this. But really, it's the soul. Essentially, what it seems like it's doing is the soul is really going to a higher dimensional frequency. It's not necessarily traveling per se, depending on how you see this reality that we're in, but it's detaching from the body and moving and essentially sending your awareness somewhere else. And so, like,
Mm,
you go to the top of the pyramids, you can go to your friend's house and see that they, yeah, like you said, Bob was able to verify certain things at people's houses, like the shoes on the floor, the red shoes. It's like, oh, you had red shoes on the floor. And they're like, how did you know that, right? And he went there and astral projected. And so it's like shifting your awareness, but your body is still physically in one place, just resting and at ease. And it's interesting because I think some people have said, some sources have said, we do this every night. We go astral projecting when we go to sleep. Like we and if you ever had that feeling of like falling, like right after you fall asleep and you have the feeling of falling, my understanding is that is you've just detached, and then maybe something brought you back to wakefulness, without you expecting it. And so your
interesting.
soul's like boom, coming back to your body all of a sudden. It feels weird, like you're falling. But the reality is it's just coming back into your body and feeling like it's reattaching. And you're there for that consciously because something woke you up in that exact moment. And
Interesting.
so the other thing with astral projection is my understanding is there's this is through Dolores Cannon and through other resource sources, but there's like a silver cord that attaches your body to your soul. And that basically delineates you from people that aren't incarnated. And so
Huh.
if that silver cord is severed, which can't be done, and I mean, astral projection is perfectly safe, it can't be severed that way. It just, but when it does get severed, so when you die, that silver cord does get severed. And so when people have those near death experiences and they're floating above their body, they have come out, but they're not astral projecting per se because the silver cord has been cut,
Hmm.
right? And when they have a near death experience, though, so it hasn't been, if they had a near death experience, it hasn't fully been severed, and they come back. So once it has been severed, they can't come back. So let me back that up a little bit. When they're floating above their body, if they choose to go to the other side or to transition, then the silver cord does get cut. But if they choose to come back, they still have a chance to come back because it hasn't been severed yet. At some point along that transition period, I think it's going through the tunnel that people reference. That's when the silver cord gets cut because people.
Who's cutting it or what's cutting it? Do
Well,
you?
I think you're choosing. You're choosing whether you're like, I'm done with this life or I want to come back. And if you're done with this life, you go through this tunnel and you basically are like shifting into that next part, right? Where you're not coming back. And so the silver cord gets cut as part of your shift through that tunnel. It's like you're detaching from this experience, this body. And so you're letting it be. Or you can come back and the silver cord, you reattach to your body and you go through whatever that is that you were going through when you kind of clinically died, but you're still there. Yeah. So it's all part of your soul's connection is through this silver cord. Some people astral project. I think some people have said they can see the silver cord attached like back to their body. They can always see that. Bob might have
Interesting.
even said that in one of his books.
I'm not sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, he's
Cool.
written 3 books, so there's a lot of good stuff out there. All right, we've talked a lot. Let's we're gonna move on to one more thing, and this is really can energy. What about energy and what we focus on or set intention on? How does that work with the observer effect?
Well, it's like since we are all one, right? We're one with everything,
Mm-hmm.
right? So we can then affect what we're focusing on, what we're observing, right? And this is how manifestation works
Right.
or telekinesis.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like when we put coins on the wall.
That's right. Like it's like the intention of it's sticking and then it sticks. It's
Right.
so fun.
We can't explain it with science. However, if everything is consciousness and you have more, if say Morgan's putting a coin on the wall and she has an intention for the coin to stick there, and it just stays on the wall. We've been doing this a lot, and everybody can do it because we've just showed friends to do it. They have no awareness of metaphysical or spirituality, and they're putting. I've got my buddy who would put a coin on the wall a month and a half ago, and it's still there. It just sits there, and there's no, there's no, there's nothing on the coin. They're just coins on a wall. There's nothing
Right.
sticky there. So it's interesting. This can be done. People have been doing this with like hairbrushes and other things that are like there's no business for them to be stuck on the wall if this was Newtonian physics, if Newtonian physics were the end all be all, right?
Right.
Right.
Pencils and silverware and
You've bent a spoon
yeah.
and a fork.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was
Tell us
like
about that.
yeah, that was fun. That was like I went into a meditative state and then all of a sudden, and I had the intention, right? And I'm
Right.
just like, this is going to happen. And then I waited and I could feel the energy shift of the thing where it was like before it felt the metal was springy, right?
Right.
And it's like it doesn't want to go, it wants to just bounce back, and then eventually it just like it was like um I want to say like caramel out of the fridge. That's what it feels like.
That's
Like
so
it was
cool.
like it's like slow to move but like malleable.
That's so cool. So let's bring it back home for the viewers. So because you're using consciousness, like you're going into deep mind, right? And you're using consciousness to ask the spoon to bend. Essentially, you're part of source. The
Right.
spoon is part of source, part of
Right.
consciousness. And so you're essentially just using your ability to affect consciousness, right? And so you have an ability to ask that spoon to soften. The spoon softens and it just bends very easily. And then it hardens up again, right? When you get like think about it or get excited about it, right?
Right. And so a lot of people who have done this successfully, it's like they're like, oh, as soon as you lose the separation between you and the spoon, then it's ready to bend.
Right. So you become one with the spoon. There it is. There's the membership card. The spoon has a membership card too, right? If it's
Yeah.
all consciousness, we can affect anything with our minds.
Right.
Yeah. And we'll talk about this more in the future too. I know there's some other good examples of that where people simply their intentions can actually shift how something behaves.
Yeah, and this is like proven in science where they were observing the atoms either going through the little like doorway window thing or
Right.
around it,
Right.
right? And it's like what they were looking for. That's what those molecules were doing.
Right. And so the observers would always change the results of the study. And they were like, this is the observer effect. When we watch it, it does something different than when we don't watch it,
Mm-hmm.
which is fascinating, right?
Yeah.
So it's like we do have an effect, and that's proven science. And science is getting there for a lot of this stuff, but that's really like the start of things. So it's been so exciting talking about this stuff. You know, as a soul, we're part of everything, and everything's part of us in a way. So we have an effect. Like we can go outside of our bodies and affect things because we're part
Mm-hmm.
of consciousness. Our bodies seem like this limitation, but they really aren't. And so we want to encourage you to step outside of that, step outside your comfort zone, do something interesting, and try putting a coin on the wall and see what happens because you might surprise yourself. And if you can put a coin in the wall with your intention, what else can you do? Right?
Right. Yeah, and then the other takeaway that I'd invite everybody is to as you start to develop or as you already have a meditation practice for just a few minutes, like start to say who's the one thinking the thoughts? Who's the one feeling these sensations, right? Like
Right.
who am I underneath these things?
Right. To really get a sense of who you might actually be. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And so we don't really have souls. We are souls
We are souls.
experiencing the illusion of this thing we call reality.
Right.
Right? That's so fun. So the soul is existing whether we believe in them or not. The soul is there. And so it doesn't matter if somebody down the street doesn't believe in their soul, it's still there doing the things that we're talking about. And most people, in fact, everybody I've met that's willing to talk about it has had a metaphysical experience. Every single person.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that could be a whole other episode too, because that's a fun one. But so it's been so exciting to talk about this stuff. So uh, to wrap it up, we're all part of Source. We're all souls that are different, just pieces of Source. We're here to evolve. We're here to learn. We're here to grow, teach, to
Mm-hmm.
love, to experience. And so we are all part of consciousness, and we can affect consciousness in different ways with our intention. And so to bring it home, it's like we are part of whatever you might call you can call it source, call it nature, call it God. We are all part of God. And I think this is what a lot of people in history were finding out and were kind of, kept from speaking about it. But there's so much information out there that shows that this was true throughout history. And that we just kind of stepped away from that aspect of ourselves. We kind of decided we're going to go down the science road and kind of get away from this aspect of oneness and unity and all these amazing things we can do, like putting coins
Mm-hmm.
in the walls. So it's been exciting being here with you today.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for joining us. Thank you for for hearing us out talking about souls. And if you have any questions or thoughts, we'd love for you to share them in the comments. We're excited to share any resources we talked about in the comments. We'll put Science of Mind and a few other resources in the comments so that you have links to go find those things and read them yourself if you feel called to. So appreciate you, and until next time. I'm Steve.
I'm Morgan. Thank you so much for exploring with us today here at Aware and Awake.
While these topics can feel sensitive, they help us reconnect with who you truly are. We encourage you to express yourself genuinely, safely, and in celebration of your uniqueness.
And we all deserve to both give and receive love, so love yourself, love your fellow souls, and love this magical place we call Earth. And if this video resonated with you, please click the like button and subscribe to our channel and share this video with a friend.
We're all in this together, and these simple actions can make a huge difference. So from the bottom of our hearts, we thank you.